In the early 80s, Ronald Reagan wanted to really severely cut legal services. And through efforts of people like Dee and others, it was preserved. But part of the compromise was they toughened up the regulations. For instance, we could do more legislative advocacy before the early 80s, which those regulations essentially barred after the compromise that preserved the funding. It was possible to do more even regulatory advocacy, but they limited that. They prevented legal services people from representing people that were convicted of drug crimes in public housing cases, which before that we could work with them. They prevented us from representing undocumented people, and before that we could work with them. So there was a stiffening of the regulations, and there are still, to a large degree, those kinds of restrictions still exist. Some have been lifted. They allowed attorney's fees to be collected, for instance, in certain cases, which makes it possible for us to bring and settle more major cases. But they certainly, in the early 80s, made the situation a lot worse, and we're still trying to recover from it to this day. And to some degree we can, because there are things you can do with the state funding that we get that you can't do with federal funding. And there are ways that if we just use state funding, you can do some things that couldn't be done earlier on when more of our funding was dedicated federal funds. The funding mix has shifted, which has helped in a lot of ways. Thanks again to Dee and the other leaders nationally and in New Jersey that have worked assiduously to increase the funding at the state level and open the doors to being able to do a lot more.